Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode ever of the Pursuit of Precision podcast. Today, we interviewed Caron Koteles, one of the best real estate agents in the entire state of Michigan. You're going to learn a ton from this. I learned so much, so many details to go over here, but I'm going to give you the top 3 things that I learned in this interview. Number 1 is very simple, but by far the most effective out of all these that I'm going to list out, and it's surround yourself with the right types of people. Caron went on about how she began her journey in real estate and choosing to surround herself and choosing to take advice from those that were further ahead than her and inspired her are what she so much credits to where she's at today. The second thing that I learned from Caron was to continue to be flexible on your how. We talked tons on goal setting and how to achieve what we want out of life. And she continued to reiterate how important it was over her almost 30-year career in real estate to continue to reinvent how she did things. Things changed from her taking all of her own photos and really doing all the marketing herself to now having a full-blown budget allocated specifically just towards her marketing and photography. So she had to continue to get better and change things as she went. So she was flexible on how she was able to execute and still get the same results from year to year. The third thing I learned from Caron was to deliver value first without any expectation of getting a return. Right? We're so quick to want to get back after we've done anything, any amount of work, given any of our energy to anybody. And what I learned from Caron is that she was always of the give first mentality. And this may be the slower approach, but at the end of the day, it's clear as day that with her continuing to give first, everything else multiplied on top of each other after the years and years of doing this. Well, guys, I am so excited to see all that you learned from this episode, everything that you can take and hopefully apply to your life. There's so much more even than just those 3 things that I noted that were really helpful and beneficial to myself. Please watch this thing from start to finish. Believe me, you're not going to want to miss this. To the episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pursuit of Precision podcast. My name is Ryan Jaros, and over the next 12 months, I'm going to be interviewing 50 of the most successful, intelligent, influential, and overall happy people that I can in order to hear their story and share with all of you what I learn along the way. Today, we have Caron, our lovely first guest. Thank you so much for coming on today. We're very, very excited to have you.
I'm very excited to be here. Thank you.
What do you think of your first experience with the headphones and the whole thing on?
I love it. I love it. I feel like I should be flying a plane right now.
I feel like we should be on live television right now.
We should, yeah.
I've never done anything like this myself, so it's very interesting. But for a second, if you don't mind, I'd love to brag on you if you don't mind to lead us off here.
All right, if you say so.
So, for all of you that don't know Caron, this is Caron Koteles-Riha. Did I pronounce that correctly?
You sure did, yes.
Okay, because I did read a couple ways to pronounce. I want to make sure I pronounce that correctly. So Caron started in real estate in 1994. So she's been in the game for almost 30 years now, which is awesome. Super cool. Licensed in both Michigan and Florida. She is in the top 0.5% of realtors in the entire nation. She has sold just under 400 million in homes in total. She has over 5,000 followers on Instagram and also has a YouTube channel where she does a number of different things, posts about some of the listings that she has, in addition to meeting with other business owners and kind of hearing their story as well. So I love that she does that as well. I think that's amazing. She also participates in tons of charities and tons of different ways to give back. I did plenty of research. I wish I could participate in half the things that you do because it's unbelievable. From Neighborhood House to Toys for Tots, Habitat for Humanity, and a number of different charities that donate to Cancer Foundation. So super commendable. I like I said, I look up to that in a lot of different ways and hope I can contribute in half the way that you have because it's unbelievable. So
thank you.
So yeah, that is Caron in a nutshell. Caron, thank you again so much for being on here. as all the viewers and everybody know, I love the accolades. I love everything that you've done. I think it's fantastic, but I want to dig a little deeper in terms of how we were able to get there. I think it's very common to see online all the flashy things of I did this, I did that, I did that. And I think there needs to be a little bit more of, okay, this is where I started. This is how I was able to create the building blocks to get to where I am now. And I think that obviously in 30 years in the business, I'm sure you've experienced a lot. So we're excited to hear a lot about that. So starting us off, I'd like to hear if you could paint us a picture of what was day one for you. What did day one look like? Were you in college? Where did things start out for you? Was it even in the real estate industry? Where did things start off if you were to picture or paint us a picture of ground zero for you or day one?
Day one for me was coming to the realization that I wasn't going away to college. I planned to go away to college. I already had my roommates chosen, and I'm applying for college and filling out all the paperwork and asking my parents for help on that. And they said, well, who's going to pay for all of this? And I said, well, isn't that what parents do? Because I grew up with friends whose parents were paying for everything. And now I bought everything I needed. I worked hard when I was in high school and always had a job. And, my parents brought me up really well for that. I was independent, but I really had no idea that I was going to have to take care of my own college. We just never talked about it. And the reason is no one in my family had ever gone to college. I was the first one, my twin sister and I. And so I ended up staying home and going to a local community college and pursued a paralegal degree, and then later went to Wayne State University. And there I was taking criminal justice classes and really wanted to get into the legal field. So I was working in law firms and worked in a few different law firms and also in the business of restaurants, which is a great training industry for anybody.
I love it.
Highly recommended.
I agree.
And over time, I realized I really enjoy working in real estate legal areas. And so...
And this was straight out of high school, correct?
This was out of high school and going to college. And so I was around the age of 19 when I realized I really enjoyed real estate. Not the sales, the nerdy stuff, like reading long legal descriptions and writing them and doing the research on real estate and really more commercial work.
Do you think it had to do a lot with the history of the property? Like looking into who had it, what they did with it? Is that kind of what sparked your interest?
Yeah, to me that was very fascinating because the firm that I worked for at the time, we dealt a lot with commercial developers, so and residential developers. So I was dealing with like strip plazas, different developments of like neighborhoods in the area, and it was really neat because I'd see the beginning and I'd see the end result, and it was really cool. So over a couple of years, I realized I wanted to pursue more of the real estate world, not necessarily sales. And so eventually I went and got my real estate license to just build my resume to look good so I could go work for another firm who really could give me the experience I was looking for. So I did that, and someone said to me, aren't you going to sell real estate? And I said, no. I sold pasta dishes at the Olive Garden. That is the extent of my sales career. I'm not a salesperson in any way whatsoever. And I really thought of a salesperson as being like someone not so reputable. So then I said, well, what am I going to do in my spare time? I've got this job working full time in this law firm. I'm done with all my classes. I think I'm going to go activate my license and start trying to do whatever realtors do. I'm not really sure. So I started at a firm in Troy, and I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that I could do it.
And what age was this?
I was 22.
22. So you were working in the legal side up until that. So a couple years experience there, and then
Yeah.
you actually got into the sales part at 22.
22 or 23. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
So I would just go into the office every single day, and I most of the time was the only person there other than the staff. There were over 100 realtors in the office, but they were never there. So not there as much as I was. And if they were there, I would look around. I didn't have my own office. I was out in the what we called bullpen area. And it sounds very salesy thinking back to it, but
and it was more so like that. I think there was a lot of more, especially back then, there was more in-person rah-rah type of conversations than maybe there are now. I think it's very result-driven at this point.
Yeah.
And that's cool, though.
Yeah. And I miss those days. I miss that environment a little bit. But I noticed that a lot of the other people around me weren't really there to do work as much as I was. I was on a mission. If I'm going to be here and I'm going to take time away from my family, I better be doing something good. So I started just doing everything. I would take as many classes as I could. I'd get any designation that I could. I would surround myself with people in my company and people outside of my company just to see what they were doing and see where I fit in this whole world of real estate. So in time, I started, doing, all the legwork that you do, calling on expireds. I remember there was this one, I called this guy. He was a for sale by owner. And I called him 7 times and, spoke with him 7 times. And I put his file on my trash can. And I said, I'm done with this guy. He's never going to hire me. His house isn't selling, and I know he needs to sell it. Yep. And he was never really mean to me, but he wasn't like, and that's fine. I didn't want him to waste my time and have me come over for nothing. But finally, as I put it on my trash can, he called me and he said, come list my house. And I said, okay. And I did. And I sold it in 4 days after he had it on the market for several months.
Was this your first sale?
No, it was probably my 5th or 6th.
Okay. But this was in first year?
Yeah, first year. Yeah. So I was doing open houses, and I still do a lot of these things. It hasn't changed. I do what was very result oriented work, I felt. So, but my first year I sold several homes. It was around 15-ish homes, I'm trying to remember. And I really enjoyed it, but I knew that I wanted to do more. And I found that I was in it for the paycheck, but I was thinking about it and going about it all wrong. And I decided I don't really have to care about the money because I have a job in a law firm, which I soon gave up.
Oh, so you were doing this at the same time? I didn't.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So you were. So what? Tell me what that dynamic looked like. What were your hours like? These are usually the most interesting stories because I was working from this time to this time, and then I was taking calls at lunch or.
Oh yeah, it was stressful. I worked in the law firm, and it was 9 to 5 or 8:30 to 5 every day. And I was living in Royal Oak. I was driving to Farmington Hills. The attorneys I worked for were phenomenal. I truly loved them. I love them to this day. They gave me great experience. I worked in family law, probate, did a lot of, even entities, forming entities. So I got a lot of really good experience working in the law firms. But as I'm developing my real estate career, I'm realizing that at the time I had a beeper. I'm realizing that my beeper's going off when I'm supposed to be working on, this brief or this motion to be filed. And I can't really get up and make a phone call because I'm super loyal to my employer. And mind you, I'm still loving what I do for a living at the time.
Yeah.
So several months in, I realized that something's got to give. And I was doing pretty well in real estate sales. So I had to just give up the day job. And I was a little nervous about that. I'm not going to lie. But I figured if I could just make what I made in the law firm in real estate sales, I'd be happy. Yeah. And my goal was by the time I was 25 to make $40,000 a year. And by the time I was 23, I was making six figures. So I felt like I was doing pretty well. But
and that might be a good insight too for people that I think there's a lot of people that may be in that situation where they're maybe doing a day job, and fortunately for you, you enjoyed what you were doing. But I think there's a lot of people that are maybe doing something they don't want to do for the paycheck and may want to make the transition into doing something that they enjoy more. And what would your advice be to those types of people that are looking to make the transition? Like you, it was very clear. It sounded like you had a plan for how you were going to do it. I need to make this certain dollar amount. That's my goals. I need to make the same. And I would feel comfortable at that point making the leap. Is that what would your advice be?
Yeah. I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges of new realtors or new real estate agents out there is, when do I give up the day job? And only you will know. But don't be overly confident, but also don't sell yourself short at the same time. But I felt like if I could do a break even, I would be okay. But little did I know I was going to go way past that year. And, but of course, we're self-employed. So that's different. We've got these expenses. We have to pay our own taxes. We've got, marketing, everything that we do. And at the time, we weren't paying for photographers. I remember I'd pay like $3 to get my photos processed at the CVS or Rite Aid at the corner, and then I'd take the picture and glue it to a printout page, and that was my feature sheet. So the marketing costs at the time were vastly different than what we see today. So I think
you're saying more expensive.
Oh, yeah. Now they're far more expensive. I mean, you really have to budget for everything starting in this business today, where at that time, you had to budget, but it wasn't anything like what we see today.
Getting attention is a lot more difficult, I would assume, nowadays than there's so much out there. So that makes perfect sense. Well, you kind of started to get into my first question, what I was going to ask, but my first question is mostly what would you say your first big win that you had, where maybe you were able to create the greatest contrast between where you were at and what you were able to achieve? Was it that first year when you thought you were going to just barely make 40 and you made 100? Was that your first year of like, wow, I can really do something above and beyond what I thought I was capable of?
It was actually my first sale I ever had.
Okay.
With a buyer. My first buyer I ever had, well, probably not my very first buyer, but it's the first one I can think of. They were veterans, a husband, wife. They also fostered children, and they were coming in from Texas, and they needed a home. And I'm showing them homes all over the area. And this was in a home in Sterling Heights. I found them. And I wrote an offer, and I was told by even their lender and my manager not to bother writing the offer because it would never get accepted. And what we were doing is we were going to write a full price offer. They only had $500 for a deposit. They were doing 0 down, and this was in a seller's market. And now I don't know what's good and bad to do. I just know I'm working for my client, and I'm going to do what I need to do to get them the home. So I write this offer, and it is really truly a great offer. It's just compared to a lot of the buyers out there, they didn't appear to be as strong because they didn't have down payment and they didn't have a large deposit. But I went to present the offer, and at the time we would present an offer in person to the seller and to the agent. So I had called the agent in advance. I said, I have this offer. I want to present it to you and the seller. And I get to the house, and it's this house in Sterling Heights. It's a great big living room. You walk in, and I walk in the door, and There are 2 chairs at the back of the room facing forward, and then at least 6 or 7 chairs on either side. And I'm like, what have I gotten myself into? What's going on? Oh, it looks like they're getting ready for a party here. No, that's who I was presenting my offer to, is the entire family.
Oh
All of their relatives were there.
They didn't live there, did they? Or
No,
okay.
but they were there for this.
Yeah. It was a family decision.
It was a huge family decision.
Wow.
And so the listing agent, Wahib was his name, the most gracious man ever. He was wonderful. I was scared to death. I'm sitting there. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I'm shivering and sweating right now. And I had to pretend like I was totally cool and present this offer to him and to everyone. And I mean, this is the first offer I've ever presented. I don't really know what I'm doing, but they accepted it. He called me later that day and said, we signed your offer. I'll fax it to you. So these were back in the days of faxing. So I was so excited for my buyers because it meant a lot to them, because I did not give up on them. And, you know, they had at least 4 or 5 foster children at the time. And that's when I realized this has nothing to do with real estate. This is a people business. And people need a good home to live in. They need a good community around them, and everybody's wants and needs are a little different. So, you know, that day, I felt like I made a difference in their lives, and I did, and I kept in contact with them and still do to this day. So, and that's been quite a few years now, 28, 29 years ago now. So,
Yes.
yeah.
I mean,
So
I think that's amazing, and maybe something that for future realtors and realtors that are maybe newer to this, that didn't experience when things were all in person. But I think that with the way that things are, with grabbing attention and social media and using the internet, I think things can get probably a little cold,
yeah.
if you can agree with that,
Yeah.
where maybe making the extra step to go meet the person, shake their hand, and see them in person can go a long way.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really valuable piece that I think I can totally relate to, just looking at the numbers on the screen and forgetting that those are people. And
Yeah.
so I think that that's amazing that stuck with you. And I think it's probably where you learned how much you enjoyed just helping people. And
Right.
that's what it was more about than just a number on the screen. When
Yeah.
it wasn't even you weren't looking at it on the screen. For the
No,
most
not
part.
at all. Not even on the fax machine yet. But needless to say, after that, everything seemed easy. Every transaction after that, I got through the hardest kind of financing, 0 down, a low deposit, a room full of sellers. How intimidating. And then after that, everything was like, oh, well, yeah, I could do that. Well, yeah, of course. It was a huge confidence booster for me. So, and it made it fun. It made me realize how fun this business is. It's not just all numbers, and it's not just contracts and dealing with whiny people who are saying, why isn't my house selling? Or buyer, why can't I find a house? Why isn't my offer getting accepted? So, so I really have enjoyed it. You know, to this day, I thrive on helping people, and that is why I end up doing a lot in the community. It's just fun.
Yeah.
That's my hobby. We were talking earlier about golf. I'm not a good golfer. So, but I am good at, you know, helping the community.
It's better than everybody that thinks that they're good at golf and
Yeah.
says that they're good at golf.
Yeah.
And then-
Nobody really says that except Tiger. So.
No, I mean, that's amazing. Do you think that the problem solving is a big piece that stands out to you as well? Do you like the fact that there's contrast and some of them are obviously going to go perfect and no issues and you guys get along great, and then there's other ones that are more difficult? Do you enjoy the challenge of
Yeah.
trying to figure it out and problem solving through that? Is that enticing to you?
I do love the challenge. I have many attorneys who call me and say, well, I've got this client or I've got this situation. And I'm like, it doesn't sound all that bad. And sometimes I'm like, oh, yeah, that was bad. But, you know, I figure it out.
Yeah.
We figure it out. And I like to deal with things as a team player. But I have really good experience. So I really don't have something that I can't handle. um, when we do have the easy ones, I'm very grateful for it. I'm like,
Yeah.
well, that's the good one for the year. Now I'm done with that. I
Yep.
won't get another one like that for the rest of the
Yep.
year.
Take them when
If
they come.
yeah, if I get a couple easy ones a year, that's great, And sometimes we just make it look easy,
Mhm.
but it wasn't that easy.
Likely because you've dealt with the exact same situation or
Mhm.
something similar in the
Yeah.
past, I'd assume, right?
Yeah. But I don't mind challenges at all. In fact, it just makes me feel a little bit more valued. But I also don't look for them, the
Yeah.
challenges.
I don't think you need to
There's
in your
there's
business.
enough drama in the world,
Yes,
I
absolutely.
tell people just, turn on a soap opera, or I guess today a
Just the
reality.
news now.
Yeah, the news or a reality show if you want the drama, but I'm trying to stay drama free here.
Yeah. So my next question is, so obviously there was a ton of drive behind everything that you did, and it seemed like you were very clear on this is what I'm trying to get out of this situation. And my question is more, I find that anybody that has that level of drive has a why for why did it matter so much to you? Were you worried about your family? Were you worried about, did you maybe not grow up with a ton of money? I think there's usually a reason that someone, or maybe they choose something or choose to have a reason why it's so important to them.
Yeah.
And so why for you, why were you different than, you said there were over 100 other agents in
Hmm.
where you were working,
Yeah.
and you said none of them seemed to have the same fire or desire to be in there and work as much as you were. And
Yeah.
what was that thing for you? And did you know at the time
Yeah.
why you were so fired up? Or do you think that you kind of learned that over time?
Yeah. Well, it didn't really dawn on me until a few years ago. Growing up, my dad worked very, very hard, and my mom was raising five of us. And we lived in a very nice home in Sterling Heights. And, my dad did everything he could, but he also dealt with a lot of illness. And then also he worked for automotive, Chrysler, with the layoffs and the cutbacks and the recessions, and then his health. And so we were always having a hard time financially in my family getting by.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, when I was either 10 or 11 years old, my parents were going through such a financial hardship, and they did what they could to hide it from us. And we ended up moving, and we moved up to Romeo, from Sterling Heights to Romeo. And I was like, why are we moving here? And my dad's like, oh, it's beautiful there. And I'm like, it's farmland, Dad. There's nothing out there. I didn't even know what I was talking about. And it ended up being the best thing ever. But, growing up, we were always struggling financially. And there was a time where, the house in Sterling Heights, my parents were losing it. And I didn't actually realize this at the time, that they were losing the house, but I realized it obviously several years later when I was doing short sales and foreclosures.
Mhm.
And I just always had it in the back of my mind that I never want to be in debt.
Yeah.
And I never want to have to worry about where I live. And I never want to have to owe anybody anything, like owe them money.
Yeah.
So I always felt like financial stability was pretty important. And, like I said, they did everything they could. But, when you're dealing with heart disease and other things, you can only do so much. So I think that was a driving force for me, is I wanted to be able to make sure that people didn't have to lose their home, and they, would be better off if, simplifying their lives and making themselves happy. And some people don't want a simple life, and I get it. Sometimes my husband says that I don't want a simple life. I'm like, yeah, I love helping and doing different things. I love to be like busy in a productive way, but I felt like over the years, a lot of people they're in this, what they feel is a dire situation that doesn't have to be that way. So I'm very result oriented, and I like to help people and let them know that, it's really not going to be bad. It's going to be okay. There is it feels really bad right now, but we're going to get through it. Or, or congratulations, this is an exciting time in your life. I want to be a part of that. So it's been really fun with me for as long as I've been selling homes to families and friends. Um, Now I'm dealing with their children, and that's really cool.
That just shows how far what you've done for that family
Yeah.
means, and maybe goes even back to that first story that you talked about where it is the family that matters. It's not just that one person. It turns into so much more. So that's really special to hear that. What would you say your advice would be then to, because of your background, I think that you see a lot of people take that two different ways. Some people might grow up where things are rougher and they follow suit and things kind of go the same direction, or they take it and again take that fire and say, I'm never going to go through that again.
Yeah.
What would be your advice be to those people that maybe are down and maybe don't even have the exposure to anything that would let them know that there's anything else possible? Because it sometimes they're so honed into this is the only reality that there is, and maybe don't even realize that things could be different. What's your advice to people that are in that situation?
I think my advice is similar to that which I give to my kids, and who are awesome, by the way. All of them, they're fun and they're level-headed, and we didn't spoil them growing up, although they do say sometimes they were spoiled. Surround
Maybe
yourself.
spoiled with the things that they learned.
Yeah, I think so. That's a good point. Um, Surround yourself with people you want to be around with, positive people. If someone is not forward thinking like you want to be and is not adding value to your life in one way, shape, or form, then maybe that's not the person you want to be around all the time. Um, in business, I would stay away from the negative people. Um, and I just, if I had to go sit alone at a table, I would. I'd rather do that than sit around people who are not wanting the things that I want. Now, we don't always know what other people want,
Yeah.
but you can kind of get that vibe from them.
Mm-hmm.
So surround yourself with successful people, and reach higher all the time. Um, there was one day this was probably 10 years ago. I was having a really rough time in my business, and I just had this moment of, oh gosh, this is such a hard business. Why am I still doing this? Why do I put myself through this? Maybe I should just go do something else. And I mean, business was okay, but it wasn't stellar, and it was just a slow time. And I was doing okay, in business. And one of my friends called that I hadn't spoken with in probably 4 or 5 years, and he was like, "You're doing really well, Karen. Keep doing what you're doing. You're gonna sell. You're gonna do 10 million in sales this year." And I was only on track for 5.5 or 6. And he is also a realtor, and I said, "Wow, thanks." And I didn't say, "No, I'm not." I said, "Thanks." And it was like a really quick pep talk that I was unsolicited. Um, and I hung up, and I thought, wow, he believes in me. Why don't I believe in myself? And then I thought, I need to start believing in myself a little bit more.
Yeah.
So surround yourself with people who believe in you. I think that's really key. And, he's been a good friend all these years, and a mentor, and get a mentor. Get two.
Yeah. And I think people are very afraid to be vocal about what they actually want because they're maybe scared of not fitting in or people not agreeing with it necessarily. But I think that naturally you'll drift more towards those people as you're more vocal about it.
Yeah.
I've even had friends that when I say something, they'll bring up, hey, my friend mentioned the same thing, or this person might be someone you might want to have coffee with, or so on and so forth. And I think the more that you're honest about what you're looking to do, I think you'll naturally start to connect with those people that are on the same path as you.
Yeah. And also to remember that you're worth it. I know someone very close to me who is younger and doing quite well. And we had this conversation a couple weeks ago. And, when you start making good money and people around you aren't, first of all, you don't tell them what you're doing. You don't share you can't brag about that because it's low and boring and selfish and who cares? Who cares? But you also on the inside tend to feel like, do I deserve this? And I have struggled with that. But I do deserve it because I've worked really hard. And I think that, if you're working really hard, you should reward yourself. And it doesn't have to be with a boat or, a flashy car or a Rolex watch or whatever the new flashy watches are. I have no idea. I just have an Apple Watch on, but
Probably makes you a lot of sales.
which is ringing.
Probably makes you a lot of sales.
It does. It does. It's the best thing ever. But, you have to do what makes you happy. But a lot of people like to brag. I'm not a bragger at all. I just like to have real conversations with people but you have to feel like you're worth it.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that self-confidence of feeling like you're worth it, that you're deserving to do well financially and have nice things, well then, that's a lack of self-confidence and you really need to work on that. But it's okay to want things. It's okay to have things. But, I think in my world, as long as I'm doing good for others, it comes back to me.
Yeah.
And I really don't try and have good things happen to me, but I do try and make good things happen to other people. And it does. It just all comes back.
Yeah.
So it works itself out.
And I think when you make the money and the income that you are making and you're able to do things with that, you are able to be a part of charities, you are able to do good things. That right there is enough to say, okay, I am worth it because I'm contributing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I think that there is a certain level, obviously making income allows you to have the time and willingness to be able to help others. So
Yeah.
I think that is obviously a tough conversation to have because there's a lot of people that think that making money is a negative thing for some reason, unfortunately. But with all the good that obviously I've been able to see you do with the income that you make and more importantly, the time that it affords you to contribute to these charities and give your time away as well, I think it pays off tenfold. So
it really is what makes me whole.
Yeah.
Family and charities. Really, I mean, it really does. I absolutely love it. I love participating in these charitable events, raising funds for charities, being on the board, for the New Day Foundation and for Faith in Action. And these are charities that, they truly make a difference to so many people, and not just in our community. I mean, in our community is really important, but, all around the state of Michigan and nationally, even in some cases. And then some of the other charities like Special Olympics. I'm going next week up to the Winter Games.
Oh,
and
cool.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Where's that at?
It's in Traverse City.
Nice.
So I'll be doing the polar plunge in March 4th.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I think it'll be my 12th time. So this is in.
So is it in a lake?
Oh yeah, it's in Detroit. It's in the river.
Oh, it's okay. I didn't know where it's at.
Wow. Yeah. Well, this one's at Windmill. I think it's called Windmill Point. It's in the Grosse Pointe area.
Yeah.
And so we'll be jumping in the river, jumping in the water, ice cold
fantastic.
water, and raising funds for that for Special Olympics. And
that's amazing.
Yeah, so I think the Winter Games in Traverse City is kind of like it's prepping me for the coldness of just jumping in the water.
We got it today. We got plenty of snow today to get us prepped.
I love this. I want to do a walk this afternoon in the snow.
Absolutely.
So I'm not, I don't love winters, but
you get a taste of it just enough to get you excited about summer.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I love the charitable part of it. That's truly, my hobby is helping. And, even with the neighborhood house, I mean, the poverty level in this area is there and people don't see it.
Yeah.
But it's there. I think is around 26%. And this is a beautiful, very reputable area.
Yeah.
But it's everywhere. Poverty is everywhere. It hits every family in one way, shape, or form, just like cancer does.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty proud to be a part of these different nonprofits and and get the word out. So a lot of people aren't aware that these things are going on in their own backyard and that people need help.
Yeah. And most importantly for people too, that think that maybe they need to make a certain amount of money or get to a certain point before they can start doing anything or giving back. A lot of the stuff that you do, I'm sure, is just allocating your time, not money necessarily. So time a lot of times is way more valuable than just writing a check. And I'm sure that goes way further when you're actually in there doing things,
Yeah. I'm happy to donate, but I'm happy to donate my time.
Yeah.
And I've done that since, I can't say since day one, but probably day two in this business. And I just don't even really know how I got started, but somebody asked me for their help. And I said, yeah, because that's what we do. We say, yeah, we'll help.
Yeah.
And I think it was for Easter Seals of Michigan, back when I worked with John Kirsten, who unfortunately just passed away. And he ran a great brokerage. And I was part of that for the first half of my career, and then moved over to Real Estate One, where I've been ever since. But John Kirsten, he was very, very big with Easter Seals of Michigan. And so I was on the small team that started, a lot of the fundraising events. And those fundraising events still take place to this day. So he really instilled a nice thing for me for wanting to be a part of community and help out. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And so when I came over to Real Estate One, and Real Estate One has a charitable foundation. And so somebody, I was there for a few years, and I'm like, don't we have a charitable foundation? Like, shouldn't someone need me to do something here? And that was 12, 13 years ago. So hence the polar plunge 12 times.
Wow.
It's fun though. I love it. It's a lot of fun, but
that's amazing. Well, I want to get back on track to where you were at in your progression. So I really would like to know about your transition from you being solo Caron to I'm going to build out this team.
Yeah.
I want to know the importance of team to you, how you value it in regards to how you keep everybody feeling that like they're contributing. And at what point did you feel that team was necessary in order for you to continue to scale and grow to where you wanted to be?
Oh, great. Yeah. So I used to think that only Caron can do all of this the right way and, process a file and do, order an inspection and, check the title work and prep the house and meet with the client and all of that. And to this day, I really am the only one, it's Lauren and I. Lauren is my daughter, and she is licensed since last year or the year before. It's been over a year. And so she and I work together, and we're the sales, and then we have staff. But it was probably around the year 2004, I want to say. I hired an assistant.
Okay.
And that was very scary.
And what did they do? What was the first thing that you let go? Because I can imagine you were clearly a high performer in what you did. And so anytime that you hand off responsibility, I'm sure it's very nerve-wracking. What were the responsibilities that you were able to let go?
I didn't have to work till 3 a.m. So it was pretty easy. But I would hand off the paperwork because while I don't even like paperwork. I like computer work, but I don't like paperwork. And while I'm paperless now, at the time we were dealing with faxes and everything, and the paperwork was quite intense and getting the marketing sheets together for properties. So I would hand off the things that they weren't really making me money, or I wasn't really helping a client by doing paperwork sitting at my desk. Somebody else could do it.
Yeah.
And it was anything that a non-licensed person, any duty that they could perform. And so that's when I said, you know what, I'm going to hire them part-time and see how it goes. And to me, it was really intimidating because I'm guaranteeing somebody this income, and I'm not going to hire them to let them go. This is like really important to
So
me.
this risk was on you, not
Sure.
Real Estate One. Is that correct?
Oh, correct. It
Okay.
was completely me.
Okay.
Yeah, and and at this time I was at the Century 21 office, and so we as realtors, and every company is a little different, and sometimes it's you have this option of maybe hiring someone through your company, or you can just do it on your own.
Yeah.
And at the time, I don't think I had an option. But if I did, I didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't that important to me because, I needed to know that I needed to know that I could commit to somebody and they would commit to me.
Yeah.
And it also made me commit to the greater good, the cause.
Mm-hmm.
That means, okay, now I'm a true business.
Yeah.
I have an LLC, which I had for a few years. Now I'm going to, get an S corp, and I have an employee, and I've got payroll, and she's going to come in every day, and she's going to work hard for me, and I'm going to give her work to do.
Yeah.
And if she's sitting there with nothing to do, well, shame on me. I guess I'm going to pay her for doing nothing. So I better give her some good work to do, and not fluff work. Just let's make some phone calls.
Well, hopefully
follow
you're
up with
selling enough
clients.
that you're trying to keep her busy is the idea, I would assume.
Yeah. So that was a little intimidating. So I started her out. I don't remember. I think it was 2 or 3 days a week, and then it eventually turned into more. And then over the years, I remember. I think I had part-time and a part-time assistant for many, many, many years, and then
And when was this?
over the years it was.
You said it was 2004 was when
Yeah.
you first brought on. So you started in 94, so 10 years, and then you
Yeah.
brought on your first assistant.
Yeah, it was right around that time, and then about 4 or 6 years ago, I brought on my first full-time assistant, and that was like, whoa, this is real stuff.
Yeah.
Like, but I really should have done it a long time ago.
That was going to be my follow-up. Was did you wish you did it sooner?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
First of all, I wish I had hired an assistant sooner.
Yeah.
Even a part-time assistant sooner. But when I had my assistant go to full-time, I was like, oh, this is so good, because boy, that means I don't have to do hardly any of the legwork of that I didn't need to be doing. It puts me with my clients either on the phone or in person, or it gives me more time for prospecting, doing the things that are making more money for the business so that I can pay my employees. So, it's like I like the teamwork. So then last year, Lauren came on board, and she's been an agent assistant for me, plus selling her own transactions, own homes, and she's been doing really well. And I get to mentor my daughter, which I truly never thought I would be doing that, because all through high school, she totally hated the real estate business. She didn't like it, and it just wasn't anything she was at all interested in.
Maybe she didn't understand that it was a people business.
Maybe, yeah, yeah. And then when she was, 20, 21, maybe 22, she said, Mom, I think I want to work in a law firm. And I'm like, what is going on? This is deja vu.
She's following, yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, why would you want to work in a law firm? So she did that for a little while, and then here she is. So I don't know, in a weird way, she is following my footsteps, but only if that's what she wants. She just do what makes you happy. And that's the thing. Some people get in this business and they're like, wow, the phone's not ringing. Like, I'm not selling anything. What do I do? I'm like, you have to go get the business. You have to talk to people. You have to get training. You get some designations, take some classes, learn more than the next person.
I have a question in regards to that. I think that there's a lot of different opinions on going out and just figuring it out on your own. Just
Mm-hmm.
go, 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 go. Maybe make a ton of mistakes, but learn in your own way versus getting direct mentorship on this is what I did. Give it a shot, see if it works for you, and then kind of from there develop your own way.
Yeah.
Which way would you say that you lean more so towards?
I'm more self-taught, I
Yeah.
would say. Yeah.
Is that
And
what you did do when
yeah.
you, okay.
hmm Yeah. I mean, I I like the challenges,
Yeah.
and the challenges taught me how to deal with the next challenge, and also gave me some confidence. Back when short sales and foreclosures were a big thing, I didn't realize it, but one of my first couple of years in the business, I did a short sale. But at the time, I didn't know they were called short sales.
You're
So,
like, I did this.
yeah, I'm like, wow, this is all coming back to me. I think I did this in 1995.
You were
So,
just selling with the blinders on.
yeah, yeah. And so, it was just somebody moving away, and they had a situation where they owed more than what the house was worth. And they said, "Oh yeah, I can work it out with the bank." And I'm like, "You can? What are you talking about?" "Oh, okay." And so then I'd call the bank and talk to them, and we figured it out. I had to provide a bunch of documentation, and then, fast forward to 2009, doing this for half the clients out there, who needed to sell their homes. And that was a tough time, but I don't know how I got off track on that. But, I think having a mentor is really important, um, because you need somebody to guide you, but that doesn't mean they're going to do the work for you.
Correct. Yeah.
So, and maybe they can save you from a few headaches, but I find that a lot of the newer agents that come to me and ask questions, they'll say, "Well, this is what I want to do," and they just need me to say, "Yeah, go do it." I mean,
Yeah.
very rarely does somebody say something where I'm like, "Yeah, don't do that," because what do I know? I mean, just because something worked for me doesn't mean that's the only way to go. I truly believe in thinking outside the box. I mean, if you really want to specialize in one area, then go do it. Do whatever makes you happy. But that's what I did. And if you're not enjoying what you're doing it wrong. You got to do something else. And that's with any kind of career. And a lot of people will stay in a career because that's what their parents did, or that's what they went to school for. Well, I went to school for a paralegal and criminal justice, and later business and finance. And pretty sure I don't deal with criminals. I hope I don't. If I do, hey, but I don't think I do. Um,
You don't
and
know that you do if you do.
I know nothing. But it all kind of has happened to be a good background for me, a good mix. But as long as you're doing what makes you happy, and you're going to do better at it, you'll excel. But if you're just kind of doing something for the paycheck, probably not a good thing.
And do you think that comes with, do you think a lot about what life it's going to provide you? And do you think that would be helpful for people that are trying to figure out what that thing for them is going to be?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think kind of doing backwards math where this is a life that I want to have? If I work backwards, what are the things that need to happen in order to get that life or have
Yeah.
that lifestyle? Do you think that can be beneficial for people to think about things that way? Because I think there's a lot of people that are frozen just thinking, well, I hope something hits me in the face one day where I just know what I'm going to do or what I'm supposed to do, my calling, my purpose, whatever it is. But
Yeah.
do you think that can be helpful?
I think so, absolutely. I didn't know that I would ever do this. I mean, you asked me 30 years ago that, Caron, where do you see yourself in 30 years? And it would not be doing this at all. I thought I'd be sitting at, some automotive executive office as a paralegal or an attorney doing, some kind of paper pushing or something. I don't know what it would have been, but I really think that as long as you are setting goals, goal setting is super important, and make sure they're realistic. And like the phone call I got from a friend years ago, and he said, Caron, you're on track to do 10 million this year. And I was really only on track to do 6. I said, well, shame on me. I need to reset my goals because I'm not aiming high enough. I need to aim higher.
Yeah.
And guess what? I did like 12 million that year. And I don't know how. I don't know how.
That's what I was going to ask. How strategic are you? Because I think there's a lot of successful people that set goals, and everybody goes about it in a different way. I think a lot of people set a goal and then just work until they hit it. And then there's other people that are very strategic and saying, this is how I'm going to do it. Are you someone that, okay, say this is the goal that you have for this upcoming year? Do you sit down and say, okay, I need to visit this many houses, or I need to send out this many mailers, or are you very strategic in terms of what you think needs to happen in order to get it? Or do you more so just let the chips fall where they may and just put the work in and hope that the numbers play out themselves?
Some of it is just intuition. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, I can't, read into the future. I don't know how many houses I'm going to sell.
Yeah.
Well, I do. I know how many homes I'll sell this year because I have to. Like, I would be disappointed in myself if I didn't do at least what I did in 2022 and 2023. So I look at it as I need to help X number of families. I need to do these other things for charities. And I set these goals usually in October or November of the preceding year. Mm-hmm. And I know that if I can, work diligently, stick to the plan, and the plan is it's a business. This is a business. Mm-hmm. Run your real estate business like it's a true business. It not necessarily is a brick and mortar business, but have a budget, have, goals, know that you should be listing or selling or talking to X number of people. And if you're not talking to enough people, start making some phone calls. Yep. And don't be shy. Ask around, who can I help? Meet with people, introduce yourself to people, go stop in at offices, go bring a tray of chocolates or baklava or submarine sandwiches to an office, or do a podcast. You know what I mean? Like
100%.
And I can't stand seeing myself on camera. I don't even
I don't even know what it's like. I'm learning for the first time today.
So but get a little uncomfortable. Like, my goals in life are to always be a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And the minute you're comfortable, you're probably not working as hard as you should be. Yeah. So you have to get yourself out there.
I love that perspective too, because I think it allows you to be malleable, right? Mm-hmm. You're, instead of saying I need to do this, and this, and this, every single year it could be different. And so you're just, as you said before, you're very result oriented, right? And so with you saying I need to sell this much, or I need to do this, and then leaving the flexibility to happen throughout the year for you to say, well, last year maybe this worked, but I might need to do things differently this year.
Yeah. I
think your flexibility has probably allowed your longevity through the 30 years that you've been doing this, because I can guarantee you that what you did 30 years ago is probably way different than the way that you go about things now.
Slightly, yeah. And really, it's funny, by September, October of each year, I can start to get an idea of how that year is going to end.
Yeah.
I mean, I follow it through, I'm always looking at my numbers, but I don't get too hung up on them, because it's usually around October where I start to get worried. Oh no, I'm not going to hit my numbers.
And then you start going crazy, or what?
Yeah. And then I'm like, well, Caron, just keep plugging away. And there was one year that I completely blew way. I kept having to reset my goal higher and higher and higher at the third or the fourth quarter of the year, when everybody says nothing sells, right? Mm-hmm. And I way surpassed. And I was like, I need to just set my goals a little bit better. I have higher expectations for myself and for my abilities. I mean, I'm able to help more people, and not just in sales, but in community. Yeah. So you just have to believe in yourself, but, keep track of things and don't slow down. When you are about to reach that goal, change your goal, move it up, because Yeah, I mean, sure, there have been a couple of years where I guess, by Thanksgiving, I could have like kicked back and said, well, I'm done for the year. But what a shame that would be.
Yeah.
And I always like to start the next year out on a good note.
So you're ahead of the game moving into
How's
next
my
year.
January?
100%.
Let's make it a killer January. If it's not a killer January, well, I'm kind of setting myself up for the year. So it's a confidence builder.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of hard work. But I also have a lot of fun. I travel a lot. I reward myself a lot. I try and take some breaks. I delegate. And, I'm there for my clients all the time. I mean, even when I travel, I am there
Yeah.
if I want to be and if I can be, but I also unplug. I've learned to unplug a little bit, and that's because I have a really good support staff.
Yeah. And if you wouldn't have built that team, you wouldn't have been able to do what you do. So
Yeah.
that's awesome. But my next question is about kind of some of the things, how they transition in your business and your professional life, how that transitions into your personal life. Now, how you set goals and how you have expectations of how you want that year to go with your professional life. Do you find that some of that transfers over into your personal life, or you use some of the same habits to think about how you're going to create a better relationship with your kids, or so on and so forth? Do you find that that's true, or?
Well, I'm a planner. So yeah, it's important because, our kids we have 5 and they're all grown, and the youngest is 22. Gosh, they keep having birthdays. And, and we have grandchildren now. So that really grounds you a little bit,
Yeah.
because it's like you want to be there for everything. You don't want to miss out. And everybody's going in their own direction. So how do we like get them all with us? And, we're those selfish parents and grandparents. We want them all with us.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
We want to do these trips. So like just last week, we planned Labor Day weekend, where I believe all of us are going to be there. And, it's a tradition. It's become a tradition. And it's because we've worked hard for that. And hopefully everybody will always be able to do that every year. And if it's not Labor Day, it's 4th of July or it's something, but, we host our family holiday parties and things like that. But, my husband and he's a huge supporter of what I do. He knew nothing of the real estate world when we married, and he has been my ally every step of the way. And I am very grateful because, I even though he didn't know what I was talking about sometimes, he'd just say, Caron, if you think it's the right thing to do, then do it. And I'm just like, yeah, I need to quit doubting myself, but, you get scared, you get a little nervous about stuff, um, but, and he's a really conservative person, but I think I'm like that person that he likes to see me take risks because he's not the risk taker. You know what I mean?
He's like, I envision that in my head, but I'm going to watch her do it.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes him a little nervous, but I'm like, I don't care. Like, what's the worst that can happen? What's going to go wrong here? So, a couple of years ago, one of the kids gave us a Christmas gift, and we were going to Arizona, and we were all going to Arizona. And my son gave us an envelope for Christmas, and he knew my biggest fear was to skydive, jump out of a plane. The thought of it is awful. And that was my gift. And so that next week, it was already pre-planned. We were jumping out of a plane. And I thought, you know what? That was terrifying, but the best thing I've ever done. And it was very uncomfortable. And I just loved doing that. And, if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have done that. So it's really funny how your kids can really teach you a lot of things. And I love being around, the younger generation. They teach you a lot. Their perspective on things is really important. But getting back to your question on, I guess I don't know if it's business sense or structure. within the
So you
household.
strategize, you have intention. I think that's the
Yeah.
important part is
Yeah.
regardless if you have the same structure or
Yeah.
you have intention for the way that you do things,
Yeah.
regardless if it is in business or family.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I just really value my kids' time. I know they're all busy, and my husband, and we've got siblings, lots of siblings between the two of us, and just keeping the family around and staying in touch with them and being involved, just being truly engaged with what they have going on in their lives is really fulfilling to me. Because growing up in a home of being the youngest of all the kids, we were not ignored. My sister and I were twins. We got all the attention. It was great. I can't complain. But, there were times where we were kind of left to figure it out on our own. And that was probably a good thing, So we've learned over the years that if you want something done, you better plan it.
Yeah.
And that goes into the home life too. So,
And would you say that you use, I mean, in situations that you're like, you said you ask yourself, Caron, why do you put yourself through this? Why do I do this to myself? Do you, in those moments, think of your kids or think of your husband of this is why I'm doing it? Does that help you to get through those tough times, would you say?
oh, absolutely. I mean, they're like the greatest pride and joy you can have. And um, you know, I have friends who don't have children, don't wish to have children, and that's fine, as long as you have something in your life that brings meaning to you. And it's not just my family. I have other things and that are fulfilling to me, but
You talked about your charities and things that
yeah,
you do as
yeah.
well.
But, and even my colleagues at the office, when I do see them, because a lot of people are working from home now, which I did for exactly 2 months and not a day longer. Couldn't take it. It was like my first day of school going back to work in May of 2020. But, I think surrounding yourself with the people you want to be around with, and if that's your family, you should do it as much as you can. Because at the end of the day, I mean, business is business, but your family is
It's
who
for something.
yeah, it's for them.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So, I want to start to wrap things up here and end with some kind of keynotes that people can take away from what we've learned today. I've already learned so much from you, and I'm grateful that you took the time to be here. But in the world of real estate, if you were to take 3 skills that if people were to begin real estate or maybe they're struggling in real estate, what are 3 core skills that you think would benefit people the most to learn, whether that's through a mentor or maybe taking a course online or taking it in person if that's an option. But what would be the 3 most important skills, tangible skills that people could take or learn that would improve where they're at in real estate?
Um, okay. I would say communication is key. Learn to manage expectations of others, no matter who you're working with, who you're talking to, manage their expectations. Because if you're giving that wow service to somebody, they're going to remember it. And sometimes it might not end up being a wow situation, but as long as you're striving for that, and just communicate very well with people. Um, and when I say that, don't hide behind a computer.
Yeah. It
Email.
comes down
Yeah.
to what we talked about of
Yeah.
going back into making the time to
Mhm.
be there in person, shake their hand, see them face to face, and
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I think that's gone by the wayside a lot.
yeah,
But at the end of the day, most of my clients, they appreciate a good old fashioned phone call.
yeah,
And not just the clients, the realtors, the title people, the lenders, anybody that's a part of the transaction, or even if you have to run into the city and check on something. Yeah, sometimes you can check it out online, but if you go in and have that conversation, you might get a little bit more out of that conversation and find out more than you thought you ever would, and it was worthwhile. So communication is really important. Financially, understanding your business, treating it like a business, knowing your numbers. Maybe don't do your own taxes, but understand your
yeah. Just
tax
not
return.
just dishing it off to someone and just
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
expecting they've got it all.
yeah. And I'd say the third is education. Um, by far, I mean, you don't have to have a PhD in real estate. Don't worry about that. But get educated. If you're not sure how something works, go figure it out. And if you can do it in person, I highly recommend it. You will surround yourself with others. You will learn from them. They will tell you things you had no idea you were going to learn about. And it's very fulfilling. And you'll, in the same time, establish really great relationships. I've taken classes all around the country for random things, some of it, most of it pertaining to real estate. And I love it. I've gotten so much out of it. I've met people all over North America in these different venues, and it's great for networking. If I have a client moving to that area, I know that I can entrust this person with them. But it's you're learning more than the person next to you is going to know about that topic, and you don't have to be a know-it-all at everything, but as long as you're enjoying what you're learning about, I think it's really important, and you will end up thriving from that, and you'll be able to teach it to other people.
Yeah. I love that. I love it. My final question for you here, and this is a little bit deeper, so this is not just real estate. Mm-hmm. So if you were to list off 3 things that have allowed you to have the success that you have, doesn't matter if you went into legal like you thought you were going to, or real estate, or you could have went into any avenue. What are 3 core things, if you could only choose 3, that you could attribute to the success that you've been able to create for yourself?
That's a super loaded question.
I know.
Thank you.
It could be setting goals. It could be having the correct moral compass. There's a number of different ways you can go with it, but
so I think just wanting to do well for others is really important. And so, wanting to help people, I think is super important. And then, having the standards, the ethics, just always abiding by that. Never if something's not right, it's not right. So fix it if you can fix it.
And that would attribute to your longevity?
Yeah, I would say so. Family is really important, having the family support and friends. And sometimes your friends are your family, and sometimes your family are your friends, and sometimes not.
Yeah.
So always doing what's right, surrounding yourself with the right people. And I think having that self-confidence and know that, you can get to where you want to be. Just don't give up. Absolutely don't give up. There were days where I wanted to, and I almost did. And I think back and I laugh, and I'm like, oh my gosh, could you imagine if I had given up when I did? I would be so unhappy right now. I would be so unfulfilled. And I just thank God I had the people around me to support me. And sometimes they didn't know they were there for that. They didn't know how much they were helping me. But, it's a good idea to let them know how much they mean. So, let people know that they matter to you and they're important to you. So I don't even know if I answered your question.
No, you answered my question
Okay.
in a lot of ways. I think that a lot of what you just said there is so valuable. I think that you look at the best professions in any situation, when you deliver value first and you're compensated second, I think that's where you're going to do the best financially, and that's ultimately where you provide the most good in the world. Yeah. And so that was the first thing that you mentioned, was giving to others and providing value. And then, of course, you are compensated on the back end, but you don't necessarily do it with the intention of, I need to transactionally do this in order to make money. It's you deliver value first, and of course the positive comes back in regards to how much money you make. But I think that's beautiful that it's the give first mentality, and I think that's amazing.
Someone asked me about a week ago, if you are doing what you do right now for exactly half the income, would you still do it? Of course I would, I mean, I'm not trying to say I don't want to get paid,
Yeah.
but it's very fulfilling. And, not that anybody could take a 50% pay cut in what they do, but you have to really feel like you're doing the right thing for yourself and for others around you. And whether it's automotive engineering or it's, human resources, or it's, a physician or a nurse, or, working in a restaurant or anything, if you like what you're doing, continue to do it, set goals, surround yourself with the right people, and get a mentor. So, and mentors at all different levels, there could be faith-based or non-faith-based. So it's whatever anybody wants. It's what floats their boat, I think.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say thank you so much for being here with us. I learned so much today, and I can tell you that there's going to be tons of people that learned so much from you today, and I think this is going to help a lot of people. So we really appreciate your time. And guys, if you are watching this on YouTube, please like, comment, and subscribe. If you're watching this on any podcast platform, please rate and review. That goes a long way for us, so we'd greatly appreciate that. We want to thank you so much for making the time to learn today, believing that your life can be better, and challenging yourself to grow. Please never stop pursuing precision.